We are live.
Hello.
Hello. So thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to be talking today with my good friend, Astha Saini. So we met in college at Purdue University many years ago. And I'm thrilled to have watched your career as a multidisciplinary artist kind of bloom. So today we're going to be talking about art. So let's start with you telling us a little bit about your career. Yourself.
All right. So I'm Astha Saini, and of course, I'm from India. I got here, and that's when I met Emily. Long time back. We are old.
Yeah. We don't
So
have to
yeah.
say how many years it was, but
No.
you came to the States for college though, for
I
Purdue.
came here to do my master's in lighting design. So I did my interior designing and landscape designing in India, and then I wanted to look at the design in a different angle because I always loved the way lighting could enhance any space. And that's why I decided to, study more about lighting. And I got here. I met Emily because I was doing lighting for interior design, but I love the theatrical aspect of it, which is what I originally did. So I wanted to do some classes in theater, and that's when we met.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, did my master's in lighting design with Emily, in Purdue. And then after that, I started to work with an architectural lighting design firm in LA. And I worked with them for about 14 years
Wow.
as a lighting designer. And I did a lot of hospitality design, which is what I specialize in. I did a lot of hotels all over the globe, pretty much,
Cool.
majorly in Asia because my boss had some awesome projects in Asian region. So we did a lot of projects there, a lot of projects here in the US. And I'm a very unsettled soul. So I always wanted to explore more. And then, of course, after my lighting design, which I still practice, but it's not how much as I used to. Now, I wanted to still explore a lot about art because I love art in general. So then I got into practicing um, art. So I started to see what I can do on my own. I'm a completely self taught artist. I love black and white. So that's how art started for me. I just wanted to show my work through lines.
And what's your medium? Do you use
Ink.
pencil? Oh, ink. Okay. Cool.
So my primary medium is ink. That's how I started. But then, of course, after a while, I wanted to explore other mediums because there's so much to do in art, and you're never satisfied as an artist. There's no end to it. So then I started to work with acrylic, oil, watercolor, pretty much everything.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that.
And you've been involved and you currently have a space that I know is shut down because of COVID, but the idea of the space was to show work. So you've been involved with galleries and things out there, right?
So I have shown a lot of my work in San Diego. I've shown my art in India. I've shown it in LA. So I have shown my work in different art galleries. And while I was working on my art, I was also doing my lighting consultancy, which I still practice. I still wanted to do more in terms of exploring what I can do, because I think, sorry, what I want to say is that I never found a place as an artist where I could say that, okay, you go in, you show your art, and you're very satisfied. Yes, art galleries are great. No, there's no doubt about it. But I feel for new artists, there is still a lot of unexplored regions, and I wanted to explore that. And
Cool.
the other side of me is that I'm a big time foodie. So I thought, why not combine art, music, food, everything together? And that's how this whole new concept of cafe started for me. So I am now a restaurant or a cafe owner. It's not closed as such, but yeah, we are only doing takeouts now. But
Right.
that space was primarily made because I wanted to show art there. I also wanted to explore my passion for food, and I wanted to give local artists a place where they can show their work to a larger audience. So it's not an art gallery as such, but it is a very welcoming place where you can show art and
Yeah.
also enjoy some good food.
Nice. And so Monica Davis just had a comment. She says, "Always be exploring the life of an artist." So I think she
Yeah,
can relate.
that is how it is.
Yeah. What's the name of your cafe? Is your cafe in San Diego? Are you based in San Diego now?
I'm based in
Proper?
San Diego,
Okay.
yes. Yeah. So the name of the cafe is La Macron French Pastries. It is a franchisee, which we took, me and my husband, and I'm running the show because I wanted to make it my home, my second home, so to say. So I have a wall that has been dedicated for just art. So right now we started in December, so we're very new. And I wanted to our first show art reception was actually on the 17th of March when the entire COVID thing happened.
Oh, timing. That was
So
like
yeah,
exactly when it happened. Oh God.
exactly.
Yeah.
So sadly we couldn't host the reception, which we had already publicly announced that we have a reception, but we had to cancel it last minute. And it was for my very good artist friend Nancy Plank. She's a terrific artist. If you Google her, you'll find her work. So she's the one showcasing her work right now in the cafe. But
Nice.
we,
What's
of
her last
course,
name?
Nancy Plank, Plank.
Okay, I just put her name
Yeah,
in the comments. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so basically, we will be hopefully hosting her reception whenever things uh, settle down.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it's a little scary down there in San Diego.
It
Um,
is right now.
yeah, how
It
are
is.
you holding up in during these times? And as an artist, to not be able to, have that your cafe, which was such an important part of you, and not be able to do that. How are you coping?
Um, I guess it is what it is, you know. You can't do you don't have choices at certain point in life, but you live with them. So we're still doing the best we can. In terms of cafe, yes, we are still open for takeout, so people can come and order or they can order online. But I think I'm primarily sad about the fact that I could not do much in terms of art or showcasing work of people because I did have a lineup of people who were really willing to show their work there. So
Yeah.
the idea behind that was that every 2 months I was going to rotate the art, but that never happened. So we just got Nancy's art, and then from March on, we were going to have her until May end, and then have another artist. But unfortunately, all of that is on hold. So that part really is not very good, but I'm hoping eventually this will all phase out and it'll just become a past.
Yeah. So that kind of works as a transition to, I want to hear, now I'm based in New York City and I'm very kind of New York centric. So I would love to hear your take on kind of the art scene in LA, I guess. Would you say it's kind of centered
Yeah.
around LA?
Well, I think LA is still a little bit more upbeat when it comes to art compared to San Diego. I think San Diego it has a lot of potential. There's some terrific artists, but I don't know. I'm still not very convinced when it comes to showcasing work of people and how it is done. Because I think there are a lot of new artists and upcoming artists here, but they don't have a venue. They don't have a place. Because I think what I've seen in LA is that they'll have these industrial places that are being converted into art galleries, and I think that is also New York, right? Quite a bit.
Yeah.
But that is not here. It's either art galleries or it is bars.
Yeah,
And
you mentioned that. That's so weird. So
yeah,
tell me for people who don't know, because I have not experienced that. What is that? What does it look like to display art in a bar?
so so I started off with, thankfully, I started off with an excellent gallery, which is called Distinction Gallery, owned by Melissa and Sam. So yeah, I mean, I started there, and I was very lucky that I they accepted my artwork, and then I could go to different galleries after that with my work, which was fine, and I participated in a lot of shows and submitted my art everywhere. But in that meantime, I was also trying and exploring other areas, and that's how I found that there are a lot of small galleries and these are some very well-known galleries that I'm talking about, they won't necessarily include a new artist in their gallery, but
Mm.
they will give their name and they'll say, okay, we'll put your work in a bar with other artists, and it'll
Mm.
be a one night show. So it's still
One
done by
night
a,
at a bar when everybody's drunk and they can't even
yeah,
appreciate it. It doesn't
exactly.
make sense to me
It
at
doesn't
all.
make any sense. And then
Yeah.
I still did that, and I would go, and it would be like, 35 miles, 45 miles from where I am. But I have to go 2 days before the show to drop the artwork. Then you go on the day of the show because it's a one night show. So, and as an artist, you're obviously expected to be there to
Yeah.
meet your people. And then you're there, and it's just one night. And then you go again the next day to take your art. If it is not sold, which 90% of the time it would not sell because people are coming there to drink and not to buy the
Right.
artwork. So that I did for quite a bit. And then I was very unsatisfied because I'm like, what's going on? Because this is not, and a lot of people would, my work is primarily black and white and lines and stuff like that, and they would question me weird things, and mostly drunk people, and I'm like, okay, I have no idea what to tell them because they are not understanding art at all.
Right.
So which is pretty sad, and that actually brings me to the point that I wanted to create this cafe because it's not a bar, it's a very upscale cafe in a
Yeah.
very, very good place because I want to give artists a chance where they can show work which would be really appreciated,
Hmm.
which is not happening in San Diego. I think that people are still, the right art is not being seen by the right people,
Mm.
which is what I think is lacking here.
Hmm.
Somehow that needs to change. I don't know how, because yes, you show your work in an art gallery, but you don't always get accepted into an art gallery.
Hmm.
So there has to be a place, there has to be a way, some other way to show local artists who are not very well established, who don't have
Hmm.
a name. I've been in the art industry for quite a while now, but I'm almost certain a lot of people don't know me. And that
Hmm.
is primarily because I am not in every gallery. I don't always sell. Yes, I sell a lot of my work, but not always. And then I think there's only a 5% of the population in the art industry that actually sells and people know
Wow.
them, which I
Yeah.
think is very sad because
Yeah.
the
Me too.
I know some really, really talented artists, and these are like 19 and 20-year-old kids, but they are so talented. But how do you show your work? That's the problem.
Yes, fascinating. Well, as you know, I always say there's always another way, and
Absolutely.
you are definitely embodying that. So thank you for showing us that other way, because you're just like, I'm going to get to the heart of it. I'm just going to create my own cafe. So I think that's awesome. And Monica also said in the comments, she says it's aligned with this idea of the Art Nexus, which is in I think it's in Alexandria, or it's just outside of DC. And they're doing something very similar actually on that side of the country. So that's exciting. So hopefully, it is a model that I think is really interesting, and it also speaks to the development phase, which I feel like in the art world across discipline is always squeezed. Like you said, if you're
Yeah,
not
it
well
is.
known,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
is. It is. And it is in, I think, pretty much any art discipline, not just visual
right,
art as such,
right.
but yeah.
Exactly. It's squeezed, and making that bridge to get up there is really hard. Even in the movies, I feel like when you see movies about famous artists, they always skip the part of how they got there, or it's
Yeah,
about somebody they knew, and
it's
it's
the
like that to
journey.
me. That's the
Yeah,
interesting part, That's why I like development, because there is so much talent, so much more talent than we see.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's really interesting to hear about your experience. Um, and now, you came from India, and you are an Indian immigrant in
Mhm.
America. And I know that that definitely informed part of your career because you were dependent on visa. And actually, I think,
Oh,
you
big
were
time. I
right.
have a huge history and the struggle that I've gone through, which pretty much every
Yeah.
Indian does, most of them at least go through that.
Yeah. So tell us about
But
what
yeah,
it's
so
like.
as an interior designer in India, I was getting trained by an architect in India. I was working with them, this architectural firm, which was led by three very young guys. And one of them, Vijay, he was super talented. And that's how, I mean, he's the one who encouraged me to get into lighting design. So he would design any interior design, any interior space, and he would always talk about lighting. He's like, how can lighting enhance the interior space? So we would discuss that and all of that. And so I got intrigued by the fact that, I have to know more about lighting, because without lighting, design does not exist, and blah, blah, blah. And that's how the whole story of searching for where I can go to study about lighting started. I had nobody here. I had no idea what to do or how to come. I had no money, so for sure. And I knew if I told my parents that I want to go to the US to study, they'll say no. So I didn't tell anybody. I just started to do my research. Internet had just started in India. So every time we would want to research something, I would have to spend the money, go to a internet cafe because we
Right.
didn't have connection at home, and research and sit there and pay every hour for using internet. And that's how I found um, Western Illinois University. So
Yeah.
that's where they had a program in lighting, which was for theatrical lighting. And it was a very good curriculum, and I really liked it. And I'm like, okay, and the fees was decent. So I'm like, okay, you know what? This is something I'm going to try. And I applied there, and I uh, didn't tell my family. I got through. I got a full scholarship. So I knew that if I get here somehow, I'm going to be covered. So I don't have to worry about that. I got a teaching assistantship, and I was like, okay, I'm good. Then I told my family, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do my lighting design from US and freak the hell out of everybody.
Of
And I
course.
told my dad, yeah, I told my dad, just buy me a ticket because I don't have money, and the rest I will manage. And that's exactly what I did. They
Wow.
bought me a ticket. I got here. When I landed in Macomb at 9:30 in the night, I was like, what have I done to myself? Why did I even do this?
Yeah, you were all by
Yeah.
yourself. I mean, God, you're so
I was all
brave.
by
And
myself,
then
and I had not even traveled in India. Like, it's not like I had traveled a lot. I just came because I was just passionate that, I have to learn
your
more
art.
about lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, I have to learn more. I didn't know enough, and there was no one in India who could tell me. So I'm like, I have to go. We'll see, whatever. I reach here and I started to do theatrical lighting design. Did 6 months at Macomb at Western Illinois,
That's right.
when I realized that it was too much theater for me, because I'm not a theater person. Uh, so I got a little freaked out by the whole theater industry.
Yeah, it can
Works
be intense.
differently, very much so. And I knew nothing about it or how US works as such.
Right, because you've
So I
never
was
been to America either.
nowhere. I had not been to any place. Not even in India I had gone so much traveling. So I
Yeah.
was like, I just put myself out there and I'm like, I'm gonna check it out and see how it is. But I couldn't handle the theater pressure, really. So I got a little freaked out. And then I also thought that I always wanted to do architectural lighting design more than theatrical, because that's what I was practicing in India.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied at Purdue, and then they accepted me there, and I moved my credits to the interior design department there. So yeah, pretty fascinating. And then of course the rest is, we met and all of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
long story.
the best part of my Purdue experience was hanging out with you, I have to say.
I know that was so much fun.
Yeah, Nesta was my neighbor, so it was, we just run upstairs and say hi to you.
Yeah,
And we'd have
yeah,
tea. So yeah, but it's really
yeah. Just
interesting to hear your story, and I think it speaks to a true artist who is just passionate about wanting to learn more, and really not letting anything
it was like
stop you.
literally that. It was terrifying, all bit, but fascinating too. I
Incredible.
wouldn't change a thing, but I can never forget that night when I landed in America. I was like, what did I do to myself?
Yeah, it's so overwhelming, and
Oh, yeah.
at least America was a little bit more, I think, open armed back then than it is now.
But
Have you noticed?
right, I came in 2001.
Yeah.
Literally landed here 1 month before September 11 happened.
Oh
Everything changed after
God.
a month,
Oh,
and
that's
it
true.
was it was very visual and very terrifying. And I mean,
Yeah.
everyone faced it, but as an Indian who had just landed in America, things completely changed. Like the treatment of people to a certain extent. It was
That's
just
true.
very visibly different.
Wow, interesting, interesting. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the cultural differences that you've experienced now that you've been here for so long. Um, almost 20 years. Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, it's incredible. I
Oh
mean,
my
but you go
goodness.
back to India at least once a year, right?
Yeah. I mean, not
Almost.
every year, but every other year or so.
Okay,
This
yeah.
year, now, yeah, I mean, of course, it's been 2.5 years now, but I'm
Wow.
hoping when things settle with COVID, I will go back and see my family.
Yeah. So what do you see as the biggest cultural differences, specifically in the arts, actually, of like how artists are treated in India versus America?
Um, so as a visual artist, I can definitely tell the way things work there are pretty similar to how it is here. It's not very different.
Oh,
It's
okay.
all about, yeah, it's actually not different.
Interesting.
But there is still a lot of cultural difference when it comes to showing even when you're showing, like, for example, like a simple example, that when we have an art show or art reception here in a gallery, it's an art show. You just go, maybe there is a guest of honor or whatever it is, if it's a very big gallery or whatever. And you're there, people are hanging out, they're having wine or eating or talking, whatever. In India, if there is a show where there's an art reception, they will always have someone cutting the ribbon no matter what. There will be like a ribbon cutting ceremony, then there's going to be some prayers before anything starts. So there's always prayers, and I'm talking about like really established galleries. They will still do all of that, and at
That's
least
nice.
it's very nice, and
Yeah.
I feel pretty nice about it. It's a very good feeling that you're starting your journey with some prayers,
Yeah.
and it's very enriching and also very humble to see that people are still doing it,
Yeah.
in spite of the fact that things have changed drastically in India now in the last 20 years.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Where in India are you from again?
I'm from central India, close to New Delhi.
Oh, okay.
Very small place, yeah, called Sagar.
Okay, nice. I've been to New Delhi though when I
I
was a kid.
know,
Yeah.
I know,
Um,
I remember that.
yeah, cool. So, and another thing I noticed, I've noticed just about the Indian culture in general, it's much more community oriented versus America, which is all about the individual and everyone, and I think that mindset has not helped Americans, if any, especially artists who I feel like often feel isolated and on the outskirts of society. This is something I talk about in my book. Is this we're encouraged in American culture to do everything on our own. And I feel like in the Indian culture, there's, even the households, there's right. You're usually living with more people, I think, in India than
Oh,
you are
always. Like,
here. Right.
I grew up in a joint family. So my family, we were like about what? My mom, dad, my dad's brother, his wife, their son. So
Wow.
we
All
were
in one
always
house.
at one time we were always like 8 or 9 people in the family, always.
Wow.
Nothing
Yeah.
less than that. So yeah, I mean that part I really miss culturally because you never felt alone. And
Right.
if you are going through any problem, it was everybody's problem. As simple as that.
Right. Right.
Till sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's actually pretty bad that your problem is everyone's problem.
Yeah.
But
Right.
so there, but I still miss that part because this is the best time to understand that we are all going through
Right.
COVID,
Exactly.
and we were already lonely here, and now we are cut off completely with the rest of the world. So it's pretty sad to see that how it's actually leading to a lot of depression in a lot of people because you're completely cut off socially.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think as a Indian, I actually feel that, and I still miss that part quite a bit because everyone is there to support you. And when it
Right.
comes to art, also, as an artist, there would always be someone who would be there to support you or to encourage you that, it's okay, you can do this, you can't do this. That here, you don't get a feedback. You just don't get a
Exactly.
feedback. You just go out and you show yourself to the world. Either you're accepted or you're just rejected.
Right. Especially in LA, I feel like in the LA art scene, well, in the LA, any of the arts in LA, I feel like is very, there's a lot of lip service.
But
But
that's everywhere, I think, in the US. Not, you can't just say LA,
maybe,
but I
maybe.
think, yeah, maybe a little bit less in New York. I don't know, because
Well, in
people
New
are
York,
very,
I just feel like it's more kind of in your face. Like if they don't like
yeah,
your
it's
art,
pretty
they'll tell you they
straightforward.
don't
Yeah,
like your art.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And for me, my experience in LA, my limited experience just trying to pursue theater in LA was, and also music was, I couldn't tell. It took me a while. I figured it out eventually, but it took me a while to find kind of the authentic response, and instead of, all of this praise, for lack of better words, instead of making me feel welcome and accepted, in some ways it made me feel more lonely because I was
Yeah.
like, I can't tell what's real.
Because you are, yeah, because you were never able to really guess what do they mean by whatever they
Exactly.
say.
And I
Yeah.
feel like that element is uniquely American,
Yeah, I
right?
agree with you 100%.
Yeah, yeah. So I've always kind of envied the Indian culture for that, because I think it serves you, and even you. I mean, having the courage to do something. I mean, I'm certainly Americans have the courage to like move to another country like you did, but you've always been, and I admire this about you specifically too, is that you've always been very upbeat. You're flexible, like even in relation to. I mean, I didn't talk to you until a little bit after the COVID thing hit. But
Yeah.
I feel like you're flexible. You're so flexible, and you're like, well, we got to move on, and we just got to keep going. And you've got this great kind of attitude, which is
Yeah.
is positive, upbeat kind of response to it, and I think that's really amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think what's the point of just sitting and holding yourself back? Things happen and you just adapt and you keep going on.
Yeah, exactly. And you had mentioned in an earlier conversation too about Indian. Well, we talked a little bit about like the Indian woman, the experience as an Indian woman in India versus the experience of a woman being a woman in America. Those differences. Have you seen those differences?
Of course. I mean, it's huge. And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's very huge and you can't ignore that. I mean, if I came from a very small town, so I've seen it all. I've seen a lot of poverty and I've seen how women are treated differently. And that is even today, even though the society has progressed quite a bit in India, but you will still see that there. And here, very small example, which I found very fascinating when I came here. Nobody would help you if you're carrying a heavy object. So this was something that I learned in the theater industry. I'm like, what the hell? No one is
Yeah.
looking at
Oh,
me
you're
because
small.
I was just
Yeah.
because in India, if I'm carrying something heavy, they would just immediately think that, okay, this she's a girl, she cannot do it. So what I'm trying to tell you is it's positive and negative both.
Right. Yeah.
So they would just immediately take it for granted that because you're a girl, you cannot do certain things, which
Hmm.
I think is very wrong.
Right.
Um, but at the same time, when you come from a different culture and you don't know how things work, you're like, okay, what are these guys doing? They're not even helping me.
Yeah.
I can't live this,
Yeah.
or something like that, or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, and in the same way, it's pretty underwhelming when you see that in India they just don't understand that you're capable of doing things, and that happens all the time. It still happens,
Hmm.
and that is just because they think that you're a woman and you cannot do that. And I disagree with that.
Hmm.
That no, you have to let people evolve, give them a chance, and see what they can do rather than just accepting that because she's a girl she can't do it.
Yeah.
And even in very privileged society in India, it's still prevalent. I mean, you will see that people are not treating women equally, and it is very, very visible.
Yeah. And
So that is one thing that I totally appreciate here. Like, I love it. Now I understand why. So I love it. But when I came, I was like, okay, what is going on?
right. Interesting. Fascinating. Well, this has been so cool to talk to you and hear your perspective. I feel like there's so much more to talk about. But is there any way we can see your art online anywhere? Or do we have to
Yes.
go down? Where can we
So I
where can we support
post most of my artwork on Instagram, pretty much. And yeah, so it's called The Unwalled. That's my Instagram handle. That's where I have everything.
The
So,
Unwalled. Okay. I'll make sure I post that in the comments
yeah,
so people can support you. And
very nice.
yeah, I think this is, I'll make sure I get the right one before. This whole talk will be posted on YouTube so people can see it there as well. And do you have any final words, anything you want to share with us about anything you're working on, or just some comments about life?
I'm always working on something.
Yeah.
So right now, well, the new thing is that I am, you know, that I write quite a bit, right? So
Yep.
I do post, I have been posting a little bit of what I write on my Instagram, but nothing has been done properly. So my aim in the pandemic is that I want to compile all my writings and get a book printed because
Love that.
when I was little, there was this book called Notes to Myself. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Maybe. It sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, so that's what inspired me to write or start writing.
Yeah.
And so I have been writing notes to myself for a very long time. And pretty much
Okay.
2015 was the year when I wrote every single day.
Mm.
So I want to print that. So I'm working on editing and rewriting and improving whatever I can do. So, but yeah, so that is something that I'm working on right now, which I'm very excited about because it's high time that I do this. This
Yeah.
has always been on the back of my mind. But the only thing that I want to say to everyone here is that just keep going, don't give up. This time will pass.
Yes, thank you. I totally agree. And I love that about you too. You know, a true artist has a passion. And for you, it's manifested through lighting, through visual art, through your writing. So I
Yeah.
think that is that is the message, is to just keep going, you know, and
Yeah,
so thank you for that.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
All right. We'll see you all later. Take
All
care.
right.